Hi, I'm Dr. Tamara Hamai. I help nonprofit leaders to create more sustainable impact through every transition. Today, I'm here to talk about the 4 types of data that you need for more successful fundraising efforts. When I talk about data, I talk about all types of information, not just numbers. It's important to remember that data is a really broad word, and we can use it the way that it's going to be most helpful. So today, I'm really going to emphasize the types of information that we need in our communication to funders and donors. So first, you need to talk about what you do and why you do it. This information needs to be as simple as possible. Over the years, I've talked to thousands of nonprofit leaders, and so often when I ask, what does your organization do? It starts a 5-minute description. Now, I care and I will listen, but it's a problem when it comes to fundraising. When you have a really long description, it's often too complicated for people to latch on to understanding what you do and how it leads to your mission. And more specifically for funding, they don't necessarily see how what you do overlaps with what impact they're trying to support in the world. When we're assembling our message, the information we focus on for what we do and why we do it needs to be simple and straightforward and show a journey of transformation from the activities that are in your program through to the impact that aligns with your mission. First, identify the few activities that you engage in your programs that create the most central change to your mission. For example, if we there's an evidence-based parenting program called Nurturing Parenting, a program where they have group sessions and they have home visits, and sometimes there's a combination of the two. What they do is provide group parenting sessions and deliver home visits for parents. You don't need to get into any more complicated descriptions than that, because yes, things vary individual case to individual case, and some people get some more of one thing and or the other, but nobody needs to know that for fundraising. They can learn that later. So start with just the specific activities that are most central to achieving your mission. Then, how does it lead to achieving your mission? What change does it create in the short term and the intermediate and then long term? So with Nurturing Parenting, in the short term, you are having parents increase their knowledge of developmental milestones, increase their understanding of how child development happens. This then, in the intermediate, increases protective factors such as developmentally appropriate parenting practices and discipline, and them actually starting to engage with their children differently because they understand that where their child is coming from and what stage of development they're at. And in the long term, this impacts other protective factors like their overall social support and the well-being of themselves as a parent and their child's overall development. This is, of course, a really simple summary of what the journey of transformation is for the Nurturing Parenting program, and it varies program to program. But that's just one example of what a simple transformational journey could sound like or look like. Keep in mind, I limited the information to just a few examples of the outcomes and just a few activities. I didn't go into every single complicated aspect of the program. So your information, also try to keep it straightforward and simple. The next type of data that we need is how much we are doing. This is quantity data. So what quantity of people, what quantity activities, what quantity of things do we have? So within the past year, for example, how many people did you serve from different target populations? If you focus on specific age groups or specific demographic groups, specific cultural backgrounds, right, then show how many people you have served from those specific target groups. Then you can also talk about how much you have done. Right? So your activities, if we're using the Nurturing Parenting program as our example still, then maybe how many group sessions did you deliver? How many parents completed each of those group sessions? How many home visits were delivered? How many average home visits were given per parent? After we have the how much data, that shows that we are productive as an organization, and it shows the scope and the reach of our organization. It also shows potential for how much more reach you might be able to have if more funding were available. The next type of data that we need are how well we do. These are quality data. Now, how well we do depends on what your program model is and what your organization's values are. If you have organizational values, how well you are doing is defined by how much you are living out your values through your day-to-day practices. Any sort of information you could have that shows that the way that you are delivering your services, the way that you are showing up for people aligns with your organizational values, that's quality data. Additionally, if you have an evidence-based practice, or if you have a model, or if you have a set of standards that are relevant to your type of work. So maybe in education, there are educational standards like the Common Core curriculum that you could align with. So then you can compare yourself to those benchmarks or standards. With an evidence-based practice, there's often some way to measure the fidelity of your program or a match of how you deliver your program to the original program model. So these are quality types of data. With nurturing parenting, you could compare how your delivery aligns with or has fidelity with the nurturing parenting program model that is documented as an evidence-based practice, for example. Another level of quality, and the next type of data that we need, is who benefits and how they benefit from the program. This is actually tracking and showing the impact that your organization or your program has for the people who are in the program or completing the activities. In a program, you have those short, intermediate, and long-term outcomes that you defined when you talked about what you do and why you do it. Measure those, right? Those are the data you need. And really try to keep it simple. You do not need to measure every single thing under the sun. There are many ways that people could transform in your program, but what are the most critical to that person or those people going through the activities all the way through to the long-term impact? That could just be one short-term outcome and one long-term outcome that you're measuring. It could be more than that, but make sure you have data elements that you're showing across the whole transformation journey so you can show that journey rather than just one point in the journey. So for example, with the nurturing parenting program, we could measure the parent's knowledge of child development, and that could be through some sort of training assessment. Most evidence-based practices have evaluation tools that they encourage you to use or require you to use. And so it's possible that nurturing parenting has that. It's possible that your model has that. Not just satisfaction, but actually their change in the knowledge that they've had because they went through the group sessions or the home visits. Then their attitude or how they approach being a parent with their child in different interactions might be something you measure. Are they more patient? Are they more understanding? Do they report feeling more like they understand their child's developmental stage and therefore are changing their parent behavior to align with it, right? That might be an intermediate outcome that you measure. You might also measure the different protective factors that are changing. This might be a long-term outcome measure of over time as they have the nurturing parenting program longer, they are improving their protective factors such as their social and concrete support, their use of developmentally appropriate child rearing activities, like helping their child to have more social emotional development or more typical or better improved development. These are just some examples that I'm kind of coming up with off the cuff, right, for how you might have data to show who benefits and how through a nurturing parenting program. So think about what data elements could you have to track the whole transformational journey for your participants. So those are the types of data that you need in order to have a successful fundraising message. What you do and why, how much you do, how well you do, and who benefits and how. If you liked this video, make sure to hit like, hit that thumbs up, and subscribe to get more videos about how nonprofits can create more sustainable impact through every transition. Rock on.